My hedge was my pride. You know what I mean? Not just some patch of leaves, but a real, living wall I'd poured a decade of sweat and Saturday mornings into. In a world where everyone's house looks the same, that hedge was my flag, my little claim of peace in this overregulated suburb. But every morning, like clockwork, here comes Karen. Yeah, the neighbor, her massive white Escalade crunching right through my hard work, tires gnawing at my greenery like she was carving up a Thanksgiving turkey. She'd wave, that smug sorry, not sorry kind of wave, and speed off with a smile while my stomach twisted into knots. Now, I'm no saint, and I can admit I've had my petty moments, but I tried to be civil. Knocked on her door. She barely cracked it, called me obsessive, said my hedge was an eyesore anyway, then closed it in my face. I left polite notes, the kind where you reread every word 3 times to make sure you don't sound crazy. Brought it up at the HOA meeting, but you know how those go. The president just shrugged, said it was a civil matter. Spineless as ever. That's the moment it hit me, clear as day. I was never going to get justice from folks who only care if your mailbox matches the neighborhood color chart. So I stopped asking for justice and started building it myself. Here's the thing, I'm a mechanic by trade. If there's one thing I know, it's how to break stuff quietly. My hedge wasn't just plants. It was a boundary, a shield between me and whatever chaos was brewing outside. Karen's total disregard wasn't just about grass. It was about respect, or the lack of it, and I'd finally had enough. For weeks, I holed up in my garage at night, drawing on scraps of paper, fueled by too much coffee and a heavy dose of spite. The plan was simple, at least on paper. Set a trap that would stop her Escalade cold. Not to hurt her, just that damn car she bragged about at every backyard barbecue. I welded spikes out of steel scraps, anchored them in concrete, then hid the whole setup under a layer of fake sod, right in the spot her tires loved so much. It wasn't my proudest moment, and my hands were shaking when I finished burying the spikes under the moonlight, always glancing at her house, half expecting her to see me and blow everything up. By dawn, the trap was invisible, just another part of my hedge, waiting. That morning, I sat on my porch with a book, pretending to read, but mostly watching Karen's house through the corner of my eye. Her engine fired up, loud as ever, and there she went, aiming right for my hedge, just like always. And then it happened. The crunch echoed down the whole street, metal scraping, tires popping. The Escalade lurched to a stop, nose down in the middle of my ruined hedge. Karen stumbled out, face redder than her lipstick, screeching curses that probably woke up half the block. I stood up, cool as a Sunday morning, or at least tried to look that way, and walked over, hands in my pockets. Told you to stop driving over my hedge, I said, voice steady, while inside my heart was pounding. She lost it, started yelling about lawsuits, her property rights, the usual. She called the cops, of course, and I just stood there while her precious Escalade got towed away, metal spikes still poking out from what used to be my pride and joy. The officers weren't amused. They looked at the spikes, then at me. One of them actually muttered, "Why'd you go full vigilante?" I explained, months of ignored complaints, plants trashed, an HOA that cared more about mailbox colors than, actual problems. Didn't matter. Malicious property damage, they said, and before I knew it, I was in cuffs, Karen grinning like she'd just won the lottery. But here's the twist. No one else in the neighborhood was clapping for her. People started whispering. The guy across the street, whose roses Karen had flattened last summer, gave me a quiet nod. Even the cop, the one who cuffed me, had this look in his eye, like he got it, like he knew this wasn't just about grass and spikes. Court was a circus. Karen played the victim. Tears, dramatic sighs, the works, claiming I'd endangered her life, made the street unsafe. I didn't have much of a defense. Spikes aren't exactly neighborly. But I stood there and told the judge about the hedge, the notes, the HOA's uselessness. I told him I wasn't proud, but I was done being trampled. The room went quiet as I explained how Karen's disrespect wasn't just for me. but for everyone who tried to keep this place decent. The judge listened, nodded, then handed down his verdict: $5,000 fine and community service for me. Karen got nothing. Well, except for a wrecked Escalade and a street full of neighbors who now saw her true colors. Months went by. My hedge, believe it or not, grew back thicker, greener, almost as if it knew it had survived a war. Karen? She sold her house, left without saying goodbye, replaced by a quiet couple who actually wave and ask how my day's going. I'm still paying off that fine, and every now and then the HOA threatens to bring up my unapproved landscaping modifications, but they never quite work up the nerve. In the neighborhood, the whispers haven't stopped. Some folks call me a hero. Others say I went too far. Sometimes I catch people looking at the spot where Karen's SUV met its end, and I wonder what they're thinking. Truth is, I'm not sure how I feel about it all anymore. All I wanted was my peace, my little slice of sanity behind that hedge. Instead, I got a lesson nobody teaches you. Justice isn't clean, and revenge leaves scars deeper than any tire track. Looking back, I sometimes wonder if I could have handled it another way. A taller fence, maybe, or just raising hell at the next HOA meeting until someone finally listened. But you know what? Karen's SUV was her pride, just like my hedge was mine. When push came to shove, I shoved back. Now, every time I trim those leaves, I feel the weight of that choice. Was it worth it? I honestly don't know. You tell me. When someone keeps running over your life, do you talk or do you build a trap? Where's the line between justice and revenge when the world's busy ignoring your complaints? Let's hear it. Where would you draw the line? Share your take below. Right? Wrong? Somewhere in the middle. Because out here, nobody gets to sit on the fence forever. They say time heals, but in this neighborhood, time just makes things weirder. After Karen moved out, you'd think life would go back to some kind of normal. Me, the hedge, peace at last. But you know how it goes. Every action leaves a ripple. And mine? Well, it brought out the neighborhood's true colors in ways I never expected. A few weeks after the dust settled, there's a knock on my door. It's early evening, the kind where the sun's low and the cicadas are starting up their summer chorus. Standing there is a kid, couldn't have been more than 17, skinny, wild mop of hair, holding a clipboard and flashing that nervous kind of smile. "Mr. Mitchell," he says, voice shaking a little, "I'm Brian. My parents just bought Karen's place." I remember thinking, well, here we go again. Maybe they'll be better. Maybe they'll bring over a pie or at least not drive through my hedge. Brian, turns out, isn't here about neighborly hellos. He's got this stack of papers and starts talking about a petition. The HOA is planning a vote to ban all hostile landscaping modifications. Guess who's on the cover of their little slideshow? Yeah, yours truly, mid-handcuffs, right between a slide about mailbox standards and a graph of community harmony incidents. I nearly laughed, but Brian looked so serious. I had to bite it back. He says, "My folks are worried. Everyone's talking about what happened. They think it's not safe. Like, if people can't count on the HOA to handle things, maybe it's every man for himself." The way he said it made me realize the war over my hedge wasn't just about plants or property lines. It was about people being scared, tired, and looking for someone to blame or someone to follow. And somehow, without meaning to, I'd become both. "You know, Brian," I tell him, "sometimes a man gets pushed so far, he'll do something dumb just to be heard." He nods, glancing over at the hedge, still bruised but growing strong, a little wild, but honest. "I get it," he says. "My dad says Karen was a nightmare." He shuffles his papers. "But they want to put up a fence now. The HOA, all along the property lines, metal, tall, ugly as sin. Whole streets up in arms. Half the folks are blaming you. Other half want to elect you president." He laughs, nervous. "It's kind of a mess." I walk him out. We talk about school. He's into robotics. Thinks he might fix up the garage, make something new. Before he leaves, he says, "I wish people fought this hard for stuff that matters." And that hits me harder than any court fine. Kid's right. I spent a year fighting for a hedge while the world outside kept spinning. Bigger battles, bigger hurts. Nobody pays them much mind. That night, can't sleep. I keep thinking about lines. Who draws them? Who crosses them? HOA sent a notice about the vote. Bold red letters. Threatening. Removal of problematic landscaping. Feels like the old days. Them, me, standoff at dawn. But something's changed. The neighborhood's buzzing. Folks actually talking, trading stories, some siding with the rules, some with a kind of rough justice that a week later, there's an HOA meeting. This one's standing room only. I walk in. Every eye follows, half curious, half wary, but there's no hate. The president starts droning about community standards and dangerous precedents. Then Mrs. Gomez. Yeah, the sweet old lady 3 doors down, who always bakes cookies, stands up and says, maybe if people listened the first time, we wouldn't need spikes or fences. The room goes quiet. Someone else pipes up. Tom, whose driveway Karen blocked for months. We need less rules, more respect. It's chaos. Voices rising, old grudges mixing with fresh complaints. For once, people aren't just swallowing the party line. They're pushing back. Right as things hit fever pitch, a new twist. Brian stands up. Kid's voice cracks, but he keeps going. My parents were scared at first, but living here, talking to folks, they see people aren't angry. They're just tired of not being heard. Why can't we fix stuff before it blows up? Why does it take drama for the HOA to care? He looks at me. Mr. Mitchell made a mistake, but at least he cared enough to fight. Shouldn't we all? That's when the dam breaks. The vote stalls. No new fences go up. Instead, they set up a committee. Neighborhood mediators, folks you actually trust, people who will listen before things get ugly. Guess who they rope in to help? Yeah, me, the ex-vigilante gardener, that it's not perfect. Some people still glare, some whisper, that's the guy. But the conversations are real now. Brian comes over sometimes. We fix up bikes, tinker with his little robots. My hedge, greener than ever, messy, alive, a real wall, but not a prison. And Karen? She's gone, but every so often I get a letter, anonymous, but you can feel the old venom. Still hiding behind your bushes? They ask. I laugh now. Let them talk. The world's full of folks who throw stones then run. What matters is the ones who stay and build the Oh, what did I learn? Maybe this. Sometimes, justice is just a conversation we were too stubborn to have at the start. Sometimes revenge burns the ground you meant to defend. Sometimes a 17-year-old kid is the only one with sense enough to say, can't we do better? And sometimes, the line between right and wrong isn't a line at all. More like a hedge, growing wild, needing a trim, but giving you shelter if you're willing to put in the work. So, let's open this up. Where do you draw your boundaries? Is it worth the fight or the fence, or do we just keep talking until something gives? Would you have done what I did, or found a better way? Share your story below, because in the end, a community isn't about hedges or mailboxes. It's about what we're willing to fight for, and who we're willing to fight with, long after the last spike comes out of the ground.